This content is supported by Tier 0 Games. Check out the website in the description and use discount code YAZZY5YGJOE. Hey YouTube, welcome to another Yu-Gi-Oh! Video and a great opportunity to look at a brand new format. Summer has come and gone and the TCG season is gearing up for another year of Duel Monsters combat. Let's look at the events and releases over the off-season. A new ban list, the Rocket Structure deck, the Fist of the Gadget set and the Megatins are all major Konami impacts that we've seen in this period. While the booster set didn't do masses, the structure deck makes Rockets much more viable, but the Dragon Link strategy is massively offset by the recent release of the Megatin cards, specifically the 3 new promos which all negatively affect the combo decks of our age. Players are kind of discouraged from assembling boss monsters due to Dark Ruler No More, hindered by long turns, by the existence of Nibiru, and virtually every existing strategy takes a big hit from Dimension Shifter. This one is pretty interesting to me because it's very hard to find a deck that can actually play Dimension Shifter and still compete. Let me know which promo you think is the best and why in the comment section down below. So, one of the best Go First and Wombo combo decks ever now exists in the Ib/Dragon Turbo deck, but we have a lot of countermeasures. Alongside that, the strategies of the previous format remain largely strong. Thunder Dragons, Sky Striker, Salamangreat, and Orcust are all in excellent positions moving into the YCS season. This is evidenced by the results from YCS Portland, the Brotherhood 1K 1 Day event, and numerous regionals which are ongoing. Let's break down the big events as starters. Analysis time! YCS Portland had 801 competitors, and as with all YCS events, we can expect that Other was pretty much the dominant deck going in, because people love the idea of topping with something random. And why not? You can earn yourself a slice of fame by making Day 2, or top cut with weird decks that nobody has a clue about how to beat. As the rounds go on, we of course see that specific decks start to dominate in the representation. If we take a look at the top cut, and we strip out all of the fancy variations, we actually see that Orcust dominated. Although there's no majority held by a particular deck type, the variants of Orcust took 7 of the top 32 spots, which is the most spots out of every deck. Then beneath that we have 2 lots of 5 decks taken by Salamangreat and Striker decks, which were kind of, I want to say they were initially written off after the ban list hits. It was generally assumed that it would be impossible to make Salamangreat consistent enough and impossible to make Sky Striker sort of grind through enough with only 1 copy of multi-roll. But we can see after many rounds and heading into top cut, these decks are performing extremely well. Move into top 4 and they take even more of an impact, with Sky Striker taking 50% of the top 4 spots, Salamangreat taking 25%, and of course Grand Magi sneaking in. I believe it's just the one, there's one Grand Magi in top 32, made it all the way into top 4 and just smashed it there. Why not? It's a really awesome deck. But we did of course see that Sky Striker came out on top. And I don't think it's any surprise, to be honest. The deck is super consistent, it has really great answers to rogue decks for the early rounds, and it's technically, I want to say, adept for later rounds. The fact that you have so much technical interaction that you can bring in, and strategies that you can take advantage of when you make it into top cut, where it becomes a lot more strategy based and less about the sort of fine tune of your deck build. Honestly, having a Striker win this event was not a real surprise. If we move on to the Brotherhood 1K 1 Day event, this is a UK based independently run event with I think about 120 attendees for this one. It may not seem huge to the US players out there, but the caliber of competitor for this event is always insane. We had national champions, YCS winning competitors, and World's Race duelists all engaged in a vicious, I believe, 7-round Swiss event. And you can catch some of the duel videos on the TKB channel if you want to see how they did. And other YouTubers, such as Robert Bat1 Duelist, attended too, so definitely check out their videos that covered this awesome event. From a starting point of some fairly random, Orcust Dragon Link Striker decks, Salamangreat did exceptionally well at this event, with almost all of the Sala players coming into the top spots or bubbling. Although partly, there weren't very many Salamangreat lists, so I don't want to say it's an impact of weight. I think it was really underrepresented at this event, and they just played extremely well and had very good records moving onwards. And we also saw Pendulum, piloted by Alec Drinkwater, did very well. Potentially helped out because Nibiru is no good once they summon a Jakku King. And then Striker did great here too as well. So we can see that there are 4 Striker players here, 1 Salamangreat, 1 Pendulum, 1 Orcust, and 1 Dinosaur. I'm going to try and get some of these lists for you guys and some of the insights from the pilots of these decks as well onto the channel so that we can discuss this a little bit more. But there are a couple of interesting things about this top 8 cut. First of all, the dominance of Striker. You know, 50% of top cut is not insignificant, especially at an event of this caliber. Another thing to note is the sort of breakdown of the teams throughout this event. Within Top Cut, we have big representation from Tier 0 games. We also have from Team Shift. And there's all sorts, you know, typically this is a London-based event. You'd expect it to be pretty much dominated, I want to say, by the Disciples. They're a London-based team, and certainly they did make it in. You know, you've got Connor in there piloting, I believe that was a Striker list as well. Just like representing the Disciples, but people like Alex Moffat were just about taken out from the top 8, so you know there was a bit of an imbalance in what I expected. I expected a lot more of top 8 to be Disciples led, and we just saw other teams creeping in and actually winning out in the event, so that was a really interesting aspect, I think, in terms of the way that teams are structured in the UK as well. Now, obviously, this is very different from what we saw with the YCS Portland top cuts, but keep in mind that the tin promos were legal for this event, so we can start to see the impact of that, as very few going first Wombo combo decks made it into top cut. I believe the Dinosaur list is the only one here that does a massive combo on turn 1. The Orcust list here is a going second list. I suppose I haven't had a look at Alex's Pendulum list yet. I'm sure it'll be up on the TKB channel very soon if it's not already, but I expect that that would also be focused around turn 1 plays. So 2 out of the 8 are potentially proper Wombo combo decks that are coming out here, but even then, the Nibiru will of course be hit by the Jakku King in terms of the Pendulum version. And to be honest, this is kind of what I expected. You know, the release of Nibiru and Dark Rule No More have a huge impact that allows the sort of slower, more controlling decks to sweep into those positions, even if it's just from player perspective and not actually from the impact of the cards. The existence of things like Nibiru and Dark Rule No More make decks like Striker a lot more appealing to the player base because they don't feel like they're just going to lose out to one person happening to hold a Nibiru. Let's get a bit speculative now. We still have plenty of time for a new ban list to kick in before the season really takes off, but there's little discussion amongst the community about immediately upcoming archetypes having a major impact, so we can expect the early season to be focused on existing decks, with the ability to innovate granted by familiarity. While most people will go on to adopt previously known tactics, things like Striker and Salamangreat, some players will build specifically to counteract these. Some of the more random decks can also do well, so expect to see things like Musketeers, Marincess, and Gren Maju certainly showing up at regional events, and taking a few spots in the YCS Top Cut brackets as well. So now that we have an idea of what the format looks like, we can start to build accordingly, keeping in mind that your region will have a huge effect on the decks that you'll face. In the US, Dragon Link is exceptionally popular, so pack on Nibiru and Sphere Mode and Dark Ruler No More to take out these strategies. In the UK, we see that Salamangreat, Striker, and Orcust are really big decks to deal with at the moment, all of which can be hit by spell and trap removal. Well-timed hand traps and a focus on card advantage can also help you to dominate in these matchups. Across Europe, strategies may be a little bit different, but I would still expect spell and trap removal, and especially one-for-one cards like MST and Cosmic Cyclone, to prove exceptional as we move on to a competitive season that includes 3 copies of Judgment in people's decks. As regional seasons begin and the major European YCS events approach, what deck will you guys be playing, and what cool techs will you use to dominate the format? Thanks for watching. Be sure to like if you enjoy the content, comment with what you want to see, and subscribe to see more deck profiles, discussions, and duel videos.